have put forward. There is a slight reduction, understandably, possibly because of certain issues that may have occurred during this period. But for 2026, I think you will be a little bit comfortable with whatever that you have been bidded for. You still have a sizable budget there. On an year-on-year analysis, I think there is a slight reduction by some 5%, but nonetheless, I think whatever that has been given to you, I'm sure that given the experience of your team, you should be able to live with whatever that has been given to you. On the recurrent expenditure ratio mix, I think it's recommended in the fiscal strategy that it has been promoted to try to have the mix of recurrent 80% and 20% development budget spending. You are still 100% on recurrent, I think. Yeah. But that is not to say that I think some work needs to be done on the development budget front in supporting our external trade. Maybe something that you could run through with us going forward into the future. We understand that, let me begin by saying that, one of the things that, we should be promoting now is basically external trade. External trade. That is not to say that on the Foreign Affairs Service front, I think you have handled that very well. You have handled it very well, and I'm sure that during the intervention with the committee now, you'll be able to give as to what the progress have been in terms of your dealing on foreign service. We understand that there are 1 or 2 MOUs that have been signed between our country and other countries in the region, also with Australia and so forth. Maybe you can touch a little bit on that, just updating the committee on that. And I also understand that the Foreign Relations Committee have also reached out to you to try to understand as to how some of these MOUs can be presented to the Foreign Relations Committee, just to understand where we are in terms of our relations with those countries, and in particular in the way that some of those MOUs have been signed. I'm just speaking on behalf of the Foreign Relations Committee because the chairman has actually mentioned that building up some kind of an arrangement with your department to be able to have copies of those MOUs and treaties, so that the Foreign Relations Committee can have some kind of a consideration in understanding why do we have to have those MOUs and so forth. But I think the main part that I think most of us will be interested to find out is basically the drive that we are now trying to push as part of our strategy to try to grow some of the sectors of the economy, because we need to really diversify some of these sectors, mining, agriculture, fisheries, tourism, and so forth. And perhaps you can just update the committee as to what are some of the work on the trade agreements that we have signed with some of our bilateral partners, to give us some kind of a understanding as to what it will be like for these very critical sectors that we have in seeing the way forward, increasing our trade and foreign either encouraging foreign direct investment into the country, or in terms of finding destination for our product and being part of the supply chain. So what is the prospect for that, like that? So let me start off with a comment like that, Noma, and then perhaps you could take us through, and your understanding as the head of the department in advising the minister and the government. What are your views on this? And any reaction from you on this, please? Secretary, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Chair of the Public Accounts Committee, as well as members of the Public Accounts Committee. Let me just, before going through some of the questions posed as well as the budget, let me quickly just introduce the team that is before me. On my left is the Deputy Secretary, Hickson George. We also have the Human Resources Manager, Laureen Gua, next to our Deputy Secretary, and on my right is the FC, Fred Dollar, and also the Director of Labour Mobility. And behind me is basically Janice Aswini, Chief Trade Officer, as well as we have Alvin Talu, the Senior Accounts Officer. You rightly referred to our budget in terms of there is slight reduction. We have 56 million, of which 13% is payroll, 7.5, and other charges make up 49%. For the ministry, and probably before I go straight into some of the work that we do, even for foreign affairs, we now try to have an economic orientation to whatever we do. We need to, I think one of the things we recognize is that we have a fast-growing population. The economic growth is not keeping up with the development needs of the country. So it is important that we really need to invest in our people. We need to invest in wealth-creating activity. I will speak to some of these as we go forward. But as you will realize, the Foreign Affairs budget covers 4 divisions. That is Foreign Affairs, Political and Overseas Missions, which we have 10, plus the consulate in Brisbane, and we have External Trade, which also covers Labour Mobility and Corporate Administration. Just to say that there is, in terms of the positions within the ministry, we have, this is one of the, it is a small ministry in the sense that we have 86 positions within the ministry, with 77 now covered. But in terms of looking at the budget and looking at what we are doing, you can see that we are making indirectly more money. What we are actually benefiting on. I'm really talking about labour mobility. I will talk more on the details of that, as well as on trade arrangements in terms of trying to ensure that we invest heavily in trade. Just to say that it is a small ministry. We have, while we have a small ministry, we try to look after our staff in terms of training. We have a number of nearly three staff have completed the master's program. 23 have gone through various training during the course of the year, from IPAM programs to New Zealand, China, Indonesia, India as well. So even for India, much of the missions that we have is basically trying to ensure that we get rule-tested technology. We try to also have reduce the way we do business, especially when it comes to health, in terms of having some of the MOUs in terms of looking at the production of pharmaceutical arrangements, and this is more or less led by various ministry. But I can say that looking at the budget and looking at our history, we are small. But I think in terms of execution, over the years from 2023, for actuals, we are tracking at more than 80%. For 2023 was 80.6, 2024 86.8, and for 2025 at the moment, as of 31st of September, we are tracking 83.4% in terms of utilizing the budget. Let me just probably now answer some of the questions that you have more or less posed in terms of looking at the activities where we are and what we will be doing going into 2026 as well. Just on maybe if I can give some figures on labor mobility for PAM. Since 2018, we have already 10,932 who have gone through that. Now, as of today, mobilized 2,302 workers. Currently, we have more than 5,446 workers in Australia alone. Now, if we add New Zealand under the RSC program, we can add another 1,159 workers. Now, with the current arrangements that we have, we basically now dealing with labor mobility a little bit much more broader. After our having arrangements with Niue, we've got interest from other Pacific Island countries. This includes Tuvalu. Nauru has been also investing in, so we intend to actually keep broadening our different sectors, both within Australia and New Zealand, but also within the Pacific. So we intend to try to keep working on that. As you probably have seen over the 2 weeks ago, we basically successfully hosted the Pacific Labor Mobility annual meeting here in Honiara. Basically bringing employers, bringing all stakeholders, and trying to keep working with especially the employers and the program in terms of trying to manage it going forward. So our engagement is basically to grow the industry. We have taken a number of initiatives in terms of trying to increase, trying to broaden and upskill many of our workers. So what we have done is we have trained a number of our workers in forklifting training. Forklifting to get licensed, so it's basically give them added skill to just to be marketable. So within the year, we have basically now have trained 36 candidates, about 20 females and 16 males. We have also introduced training in other sectors. This includes beside forklift driving as well, giving them license. So it's just trying to ensure that we remain ahead of the game, competitive. Noting that Solomon Islands now is the third largest contributing country to the receiving states, receiving labor mobility market. So number one is basically Vanuatu, who's been a long time in that space, followed by Fiji, and now we have Solomon. So Fiji and Solomons, we're basically 5,000 plus in the program, and we intend to keep this growing. We have one of the values of having the PAC and the having this is basically the recommendations that PAC continues to provide. And I wish to say that on reintegration, we have already economic reintegration of workers. We have nearly facilitated 444 workers, return workers, in terms of accessing the superannuation.
Okay.
Now, when we access the superannuation, we also have session in terms of talking to them in terms of reintegrating back into the economy and the investments that they will be taking from the superannuation. This is also part of that program. We have more than 60. We have already more than 60 aged care workers. There's only about 30 from the first cohort, but we also have increased, resupplied more than 100 again on the work-ready pool. These are things that we continue to work on that. But as you probably are aware, when we look at indirectly, we also contribute to tourism in the sense that we have hosted nearly the country, not the ministry, but basically the country, in which we play a small role in a number of these meetings. This includes the Honiara Summit, the Sustainable Development Goal. This is back in February. We also hosted the Solomon Islands Telecommunication, Pacific Islands Telecommunication Association, was also held in May. We also hosted the PESA Plus trade meeting in April. So currently we are chair of that, and we will be hosting both the official as well as the ministerial by end of Tuesday next week, for going into the week, and that will also happen. We have also hosted the when I said we, it's basically the government have hosted the Pacific Wastewater Conference. We have the PIF, the Pacific Island Forum, the Pacific Ocean Conference, and also the ministerial meeting. So next year, what are we looking at? We're looking at by 2026, we're hosting more meetings. I think it is now slowly becoming a destination for some of these meetings, in which we have learned so much from the other countries in terms of some of the experience in the different sectors, and taking some leadership and understanding new partnerships and creating networks. So next year there will be a Council Tourism Ministers meeting as well. This is beside having various bilaterals with other countries, especially with Papua New Guinea. Now, on the LDC, we still supposed to graduate. We're scheduled to graduate by December 2027. Now, on this, there are some agreements that we actually now trying to elevate together with our partners. So we have received a trade framework from the People's Republic of China to elevate it. At the moment, China has offered us a non-preferential trade arrangement, which basically is for LDC. But once we graduate, we basically need a trade framework. We also there is also a regional discussion on having a UAE Pacific economic partnership arrangement as well. So these are some of the new arrangements. Both our missions abroad as well as the Ministry of Trade is basically trying to work on. Certainly, we some of the main activity going into 2026 as well. From the political front, we will be our Universal Periodic Review on Human Rights is due in 2026, so we'll be working on that. But on security, I think there was a question in Parliament in terms of acceding to the Convention on Transnational Organized Crime. On top, we are working with police and Ministry of Commerce on this very issue, especially when it comes to issues relating to drugs and all that. It makes it all the more urgent to really do more on this front. We are also working with the UN in terms of having deployment of Royal Solomon Islands Police Force into the peacekeeping arrangement. So it's seen as also in the form of labor mobility, in the sense of but having much more richer capacity building, working with other international police from other countries around the world in terms of doing that. So at the moment there is ongoing discussion. You did mention, make reference to some of the treaties and conventions. This year we ratified a good number of treaties, not only from nuclear related, but also maritime. We have collaborated and facilitated nearly 9 ratification instruments, both for IMO as well as ILO conventions. But all of this is basically working with the relevant line ministries, fishing convention, etc. So in terms of diplomatic relations, we already have relations now with 138 countries, and this is out of 193. So we still have relations. We still need to establish relations with the remaining 55. Our relations with other partners are also fairly rich, in the sense that especially dealing with UXO, the Halo project with the United States, we also try to follow that very closely, and also with Japan. But going into 2026, we will be chair of something. Chair, you have been during your term as leader of the country, G7+. We will be chairing that as of 2026. Currently, we are chair of the Pacific Labor Mobility Plan, the annual meeting of that. We are also chair of the PERSA Plus. The PERSA Plus arrangement is, by next week, is basically an important one for the country, and you referred to trade. Yeah. The term for the first phase of the implementation of in terms of rolling out support will come to an end on the 12th of December. So the meeting next week is supposed to have renewed commitment from our 2 partners, especially Australia and New Zealand. The first cycle was around Australian AUD 25 million. So we are expecting, with the increased number of activities, we expect the envelope to increase, and that will be signed off by minister at ministerial level. So that again will be hosted here in the Solomon. So we are basically working with all the other 10 other parties in terms of advancing this. Under this PERSA Plus, just to touch on some of the economic activity we're basically doing, is we're working with chili farmers, and one of the issues with salt tuna is that there is a lack of chili, and I think they've been importing chili from Nepal, from abroad. So under the PERSA Plus arrangement, we're trying to work with MAL. We have worked with also an agriculture expert in terms of trying to ensure those from the province, especially Western Province, which is closer to the tuna factory, to really grow chili. We have also, under the program, we have supported Sol Agro, basically to ensure that Sol Agro becomes marketable in terms of looking out in terms of finding, making it more competitive. We also have other economic arrangements with the European Union, the Economic Interim Partnership Agreement. We also have the enhanced integrated framework that we have, in which we have supported the national public health in terms of ensuring many of our products going abroad meet the requirements. We are also now talking to other partners. While we don't really have a development agenda, much of what we are doing now is basically development oriented as well, in the sense that we are trying to secure funding to construct a trade clearinghouse to whatever our products that goes out basically can meet the requirements of our receiving states. So at the moment, we're using public health, but when there is a crisis or pandemic, public health, we know that it will change, but I think we should have a dedicated one. So these are some of the things that we are looking at. So once again, PESA Plus, we hope to see a renewed commitment, and we will also, this will allow us to look at some of our specific activities in country in terms of supporting our private sector, growing the private sector, especially our people, in terms of integrating more into our national economy, so that they can properly participate in the global economy. There is also the MSG trade arrangements and the assessment that we have done as far as Temotu, but of course we have seen developments now, which basically we have signed some more agreements with Vanuatu. So we're hoping that we can try to facilitate trade, especially between Toba province and Temotu. And already at our last meeting, Toba province in Vanuatu have given land not only to the province of Temotu, but also they've given land to the government. Basically, it's all to facilitate trade. Again, as I've said, United Emirates, a comprehensive economic partnership. This is something going into 2026 we will focus on, and also support again for an enhanced integrated framework. This is EIF. EIF was supported part of partner for the cultural center, and also built pack houses and supported SAPE as well in the previous cycle. Again, we will be trying to see if we can tap this, we will be able to do more on, especially on trade. Just to say that going forward, we will be, as I've said, maybe I can close by saying that we are also currently chair of some of the global bodies. This includes the UN, UNDP bodies. So I think we are trying also to tap in opportunities the multilateral organization does have for Solomon Islands. I would like to probably you did mention an outreach by Foreign Relations Committee. Certainly, this is something we will engage with the Foreign Relations Committee. I think it is important that we continue to ensure that good understanding on where we are, what we're doing, so that we can keep growing and seek strong guidance and direction as well as we move forward. So our chairmanship for the 54th Pacific Island Forum will end in next year when Palau takes over. And on the plum, it will end when the next chair takes on that next meeting happens. But at the moment, it all rests on the outcome in Honiara. So far, there's no other country who have registered interest to take on this Pacific Labour Mobility annual meeting. So we remain chair until that happens. Otherwise, we will continue to play a leadership role on that. With that, I would like to pass the floor back to you, Chair, and I thank you very much for the energy you have done from morning until now. So it's a lot, and I think this is why, if you look at some of the responses that we have in terms of the papers that we supply to the PAC generating submission, we make specific recommendation to the recommendations PAC have done, because it has basically given us strength in terms of improving things.
Sure. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. Thank you, Mrs. Secretary. I mean, this is, I would say, a very commendable shift in thinking that has come out of your leadership in the ministry, putting the focus more on the economic approach to the way that you have, refocused the attention and the approach in almost every, activities that, the ministry is involved in, and more so in terms of sort of espousing, the whole idea of economic approach in trade. I think that's a very commendable thing that has come out now. But not to forget that, foreign relations is a matter that will always be the tool that is going to be used. And it is going to be continue to be a useful tool that we'll continue to use to our partners, and also using that as a way, to approach people to better understand how we portray our own self and our national interest, which is our foreign policy towards all other partners in areas that we are dealing with. So thank you for that. I mean, you have covered quite a lot: labor mobility, trade agreements, relations, within the region, trade arrangements, with all our partners, internationally, whether it be in grouping, for instance, in the EU project or in other areas. But, these are enriching kind of relations, because, we can use that for the purpose of improving the way that we are dealing with ourselves with other organizations as well. Our position with in the UN space, we have continued to be visible. I think that's a very commendable thing that we get ourselves engaged in the UN space, in the areas of climate change, for instance, on issues of general development. With the G77, the South-South relations that we have, and also together with China as well, on that space. I think that's the way to go. These are the platforms that will continue to build our understanding, enriching ourselves, in our engagement in these areas. So I really wanted to commend the kind of thinking, shift in thinking and focus that you guys are doing there, and I think we should continue to support you on this front. Let me just pose some question to you on this PESA Plus. These are the discussions, ever since, the inception of PESA Plus. There's been a lot of reservations, and some negative thinking around it. But it's good that, we continue to be patient, and then we kept ourselves, close to this discussion with, in particular, Australia and New Zealand. And the change in thinking that came about, for instance, the speedy movement towards the labor mobility out of the PESA Plus space. I know one of my friends, well, he's basically one of my teachers too, who did a lot of editing and writing around, the plus aspect on the labor mobility. I argued with him about, conditioning the labor mobility aspect into that space, and I said it has to be a standalone one. But I mean, Ron Duncan, was, one of our main, discussion, in this whole field. And I think you guys have taken up, the responsibility to really move it further. For instance, the first thing that we did was basically throw away the temporary arrangement. And then we went straight for the permanent one at that time when we were not even ready to, like that. Yeah? And could be, some people will say, oh, a lot of issues still around, you may not fix him. But I think there's a platform that is now being agreed upon. I mean, this annual conference that you are having, taking up the chairmanship, I think you should stick to this whole process and then get ourselves around it, and then slowly moving ourselves into the space of improving, some of the issues around the labor mobility arrangement. Perhaps you can just tell us, whether or not some of these common complaints, this time you feel one time, in terms of the terms and conditions. These are the kind of things that a lot of people would always talk about. But I think the reintegration aspect that you mentioned was where having access to, the kind of a windfall income disposal that they are having, and encouraging them to use that as part of, enterprising project for themselves. Using some of the our own financial schemes and arrangement inside Lohia. Maybe it's through the financial institutions that you may establish him, like DBSI, but make sure I ought not invest him a lot of that into DBSI. But I think there are guarantee schemes. We have just spoken to Ministry of Commerce. There is a guarantee, and it's gone up to around 19 million. Yeah, something like 19 million. These are the kind of schemes that maybe you will find time to talk to the Ministry of Commerce and then see how the reintegration process here can be used to utilize their income from the superannuation, and then partnering it with the schemes that is made available by Commerce. That is another. The trade non-preferential arrangement, one time, People's Republic of China, I think this is where we need to put our focus on PS. The trade opportunity with them, China. Let's explore that. What can we do, to really have that available to our potential exporters of Solomon Islands? I know that you've been thinking, I'm sure that all of you, in the trade office and other departments of government will be spending time to rethink how na babayim work law, investing in arrangements that better prepare our exporters, including, something that babai overnight no more people babai make them ready now, the export production, it will require some time, to get engaged in this business, other crops, for instance, I'm not taking one day no more from growing. So what are we going to do? This is what we need to encourage other departments, agriculture, for instance, fisheries, and so forth, so that we can start preparing our exporters now. And it needs to come with some kind of financial support here. If financial support is not here, maybe we should find ways, to really resource such a scheme. It would be interesting to hear from you on that. The issue of our international development program, I still feel that we should encourage and grow up this scheme within our police force, the international deployment program there. Meeting you may start and finish before,
Yes.
Then go and stop now. That was one of a little bit disappointment no more was when we left. You may stop him no more and go you may restart him back now. I mean, we've lost all this opportunity now, but anyway, let's start it again. I think you may start over them 3 fall no more, you may send them go, then after 3 years finish now. I'm not too sure, no anyone go more. I think we send them to Somalia or
Sudan.
Or Sudan, yes. South Sudan, the new country here. South Sudan. Me remember good, we will start them now. And I I mean, we visited the International Deployment Center law, Australia, and then say to them that, look, let's partner with this program here, so that even losing the career pathway belong all the officers, believe me. This is another pathway forward, I was saying. Anyway, I mean, and it's good to hear from you, PS, that we are going to recommence it again. And I think this will build a lot of interest in setting a lot of a good standard for our own force here, emotion. As what you said, it will be it's an enriching program here, emotion. So yeah, it's a good initiative, and I think we should keep it going. What good things are saying, kill him. Yeah, man. Yeah, let's not throw in water, low fire. Keep it going. They're good for the country. I mean, let's see, Fiji, for instance. I mean, in the peacekeeping force. I mean, there's nothing wrong with us serving in the international policing. I mean, that's one aspect that I'm not requiring any major training here. I mean, it's basically good behavior and good quality training. No more. I think we can deploy our people through such program very effectively. So these are my comments, and perhaps if anyone got anything for Talem PS, or ask him. I mean, what I mean, think for ask him. Plus that him 7 o'clock and you may run tight too. But PS, you want to say something to some of those comments, please?
Thank you so much.
VSA.
Huh? For the VSA?
VSA program, and they're coming in to help the country, the labor force.
VSA,
VSA program and the US one.
The US Peace Corps?
Peace Corps.
Oh.
Can we talk on those?
Okay, yeah. Maybe you can touch on those when you make your remarks, PS.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you so much, Chair, and thank you for sharing your rich experience as well. Yes, economic integration is important for the region in the sense that it's been 54 years now. In the Pacific, we've been talking about trade and integration. Even for when the forum actually started, it basically started as SPEC. South Pacific Economic Cooperation, and then we had SPATICA, we had PICTA, now we had PERSA. Yeah. So with the PERSA Plus arrangements, one of the things that we, with the new funding, with the first cycle as well as the second, is basically trying to ensure that we can prepare each country's specific situation in terms of its trade, in terms of entering the Australia-New Zealand market. And this is why there is a PERSA Plus implementation unit based in Samoa. So some of the references to Chile in terms of trying to help farmers, supporting soil grow, and all of these are basically from PERSA Plus funding. We have even given funding to Kathliro for drying of cocoa. Trying to keep investing. So with the next cycle, much of the resources from Solomon Islands country program, we intend to keep supporting our private sector. We intend to keep investing in our farmers as well, in terms of making them fully participate. But certainly, I think when it comes to matters relating to trade arrangements, this is something that we would like to see. One of the things within the Pacific is that when we speak about integration, this is why for Solomon Islands, when we hosted the Pacific Island Forum, we tried to have the theme with integration. It's basically we need the political will to really also open our borders. We have that with so many countries, including with the European Union. So we are working with our partners also in trying to ensure that there is much more visa-free arrangements. New Zealand have made some changes to their visa arrangement, which means I think once you have an Australian visa, you can also travel to New Zealand. So some baby steps are happening, but I think we need more. After 54 years, I think more needs to happen, but I think this is more to do with the political will to do some of these things on the trade in terms of preparing ourselves for formalizing our trade arrangements. At least, as you've alluded to, I have nothing else to add but to support your comments, your vision, as well as what you have just, or the observation you have said. The Royal Solomon Islands Police Force, that is also correct. It used to be there. Now we have a national Commission of Police, which is so keen to start it up. So I think we will be trying to ensure that we remain engaged, because I think even the UN requested extension for the previous deployment, but that was not. I think we did not get the green light from the Commission of Police during that period. So it's. But I think right now, looking at things, I think the world has evolved, perception have changed, and certainly I think a lot of this will change. I think just on voluntary arrangements, we have various voluntary arrangements, I think, at the moment with the Japanese. Of course, the Americans have also registered interest to come in. But I think they would like to, I think it's the privileges that they are asking, basically trying to equate it with diplomats, which basically gives them immunity, etc. I think that was the sticking point in which we have basically referred it to cabinet to make a decision. But we have never said no to any volunteers. We basically looking in terms of looking at a lot of our issues. We are looking at a lot of old problems. We need new solutions, new thinking. And I think this is why even there is no one who has monopoly of knowledge. So even from the volunteers, we can learn something from them. But certainly, I think we are paying more close attention to also having a stronger country intervention, and one of our strong partners, especially on PERSA Plus arrangements and the support even on labour mobility, Australia. With New Zealand program, we do not receive any support from the New Zealand government. Much of the resources are basically from within the ministry. So we, compared to other Pacific countries, they have received support. But as I've said, we will remain, we will try as much as possible to punch above our weight in terms of just moving and talking and working with everyone around us to ensure that that we progress many of these areas. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Piers. Just on the issue of, premise on the concept of integration, for instance, where, we work so hard, in promoting this idea in our discourse, conversation, for 53 years. And I think the same should have been done in the G77 plus sphere as well, too. Because as you know that even the South-South countries, you can actually see them, from the least to even the second largest economy in the world. Plus China, for instance, is a member of course, that's quite understandable. But I think the whole space of equity for all need to be opened up there. Because you me, but export go along south too, yeah, which is they themselves, the Muslim, yeah. So I think not only that, you me have to be integrated together and share what are the space that is available within for trade. But let me put what Nami said when I was drafted in as an eminent patient law G77, that I told them that we are quite unique. And yeah, we are as a least developed country exporting to one of even the largest country too. Yeah. Why is it that you demanded our natural resources, and then you process it, you industrialize, you emit, yeah, you create employment, you grow. We are not growing, MOSM. So this is where the whole theme of integration needs to be. And I think made up joke at that time that we always say that we own the resources, but the moment them living Wolf Blomivala, we no longer own them. We no longer own them because we don't price it like that. Yeah? So these are some of the issues that I think now that we are going to be part of it, we are going to take the chairmanship. I think run some of this conversation and assessment, observation, this thinking, aggressively, not to break ourselves up, but to really push for space for equity. I think that's the most important thing. But PS, so far I think so good. Continue to promote our country, and at the same time, run with this concept and see our way forward, for our country going forward. Congratulations again, Lord Team Bluefell of Foreign Affairs, in particular for hosting the PIF meeting and all the meetings that have happened in our country. Next year, I'm sure it's going to be another busy year for you guys. And for us, it's PAC, where we can have a good source of understanding that there's a way that him connect him now solution to our own development problems. I think we will always encourage the ministry that is taking the lead in that way. So that's our position as Public Accounts Committee. So thank you for coming along, and thank you so much now.
Thank you so much.
Sorry now for keeping me waiting, but now we will close, so I will ask members of the team, you may rise. You will not cross me, but me ask him.